I watched in horror as my mother-in-law, Diana Blackwood, dropped my son's carefully crafted birthday cake into the garbage bin. Around us, the other parents and children at Alex's 13th birthday party fell silent, watching the scene unfold in our kitchen. "Really, Sarah?" Diana's voice dripped with disdain. "Did you honestly expect me to let my grandson serve this amateur attempt at baking to his guests? What would people think?" Alex stood frozen by the kitchen island, still wearing the chef's apron his father had given him before passing away last year. He had spent hours perfecting that chocolate raspberry cake, using his dad's old recipe book as a guide. "I worked really hard on that, Grandma," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Dad taught me how." "Your father," Diana cut in sharply, "was a successful businessman who owned the most prestigious bakery empire in the country. He understood standards. This," she gestured at the trash cake, "would destroy our reputation." If only she knew just how well James had understood both business and baking. About the secret lessons he had given Alex in our kitchen, teaching him the family recipes that built their empire. About the papers sitting in my desk drawer, waiting for the perfect moment. "I've brought a proper cake from our main store," Diana announced, signaling her driver to bring in an elaborate tower of fondant and sugar flowers. "This is what a Blackwood birthday cake should look like." The other parents murmured appreciatively, recognizing the distinctive style of Diana's famous bakery. They didn't notice Alex's shoulders slump or the tears he quickly wiped away. "That's very generous," I managed, touching Alex's shoulder. "But Alex made his cake specially." "Oh, Sarah," Diana sighed dramatically, "you need to stop encouraging these little hobbies. Alex needs to focus on proper business studies if he wants any hope of maintaining his social position. Not everyone can succeed in the culinary world like his father." The irony of her words made my hand tighten on the kitchen counter. James had specifically chosen Alex as his successor because of his natural talent for baking, not despite it. "Now then," Diana continued, directing her staff to set up the replacement cake, "let's salvage what we can of this party." "Though really, Sarah, hosting in your modest kitchen rather than our main store's event space? Another unfortunate choice." Alex's friend Tommy spoke up unexpectedly. "But Mrs. Blackwood, Alex's cakes are always the best. He won the school baking competition last month." "Which I specifically asked not to be notified about," Diana snapped. "A Blackwood competing in a public school event? Absolutely mortifying." I watched my son's face crumple further. Diana hadn't just skipped the competition. She had actively tried to prevent him from entering, claiming it would cheapen the family brand. "The brand," I said quietly, finally reaching for my desk drawer, "that now belongs to Alex." Diana's perfectly manicured hand froze midway through adjusting the elaborate cake display. "I beg your pardon." "James's final business decision." I continued, pulling out the documents. "He left controlling interest in the entire company to Alex. Every store, every recipe, every property, including your precious flagship location." The silence in the kitchen grew thick enough to cut with one of Diana's overpriced cake knives. "Impossible," she whispered, her face pale beneath his perfect makeup. "James would never." "Would never what?" I asked, spreading the papers on the counter. "Leave his empire to his only child? The one who spends hours practicing his father's recipes while his grandmother calls it a waste of time." Alex stepped forward, still wearing his father's apron. Is it true, Mom? Dad left me the bakeries." "All of them," I confirmed. "He knew about your talent long before he got sick. That's why he spent so much time teaching you in secret, while Grandma was busy throwing away your practice cakes." Diana snatched up the documents, her hands shaking as she read. Around us, the party guests watched in fascinated silence as the family drama unfolded. This is," she sputtered. "Completely legal," I finished. "Signed, notarized, and executed as of this morning. Happy birthday, Alex. Your father wanted you to have something special today." "But the reputation," Diana practically wailed. "The standards. He's just a child who bakes in a home kitchen." "A home kitchen?" I smiled slightly. "You mean the professional grade setup James had installed last year? The one where he taught Alex all the original family recipes, including the secret formula for your famous vanilla bean paste?" Diana's eyes widened in horror. That recipe was legendary in the baking world, known only to the most senior pastry chefs in her flagship store. "Alex," I continued, Why don't you show your grandmother your recipe notebook? The one Dad helped you create? Alex retrieved his well-worn notebook from beneath the counter, its pages filled with his careful handwriting and his father's annotations. Diana's hands trembled as she recognized James's distinctive scrawl in the margins. These are all the secret recipes," she whispered, flipping through pages of detailed instructions. "Even the triple chocolate truffle process. The one you claimed was too complex for anyone but your head pastry chef?" I asked sweetly. "Alex mastered it 3 months ago. James said he picked it up faster than anyone he'd ever taught." Tommy peered over at the open notebook. "Is that the chocolate raspberry cake recipe you used today, Alex? The one your grandma threw away?" Diana's head snapped up, suddenly realizing she had literally trashed her grandson's execution of one of their most guarded family recipes in front of witnesses. "I'm sure the replacement cake is lovely," one of the mothers offered awkwardly, "but my Sarah still talks about the birthday cake Alex made for her party last month." "He made Katie's graduation cake too," another parent added. "We tried to order one from your main store, but Alex was honestly better." Diana sank into a kitchen chair, her perfect posture crumbling as she watched her carefully maintained world of culinary superiority collapse. "The board meets on Monday," I continued calmly. "I'm sure they'll be interested to hear how you've been treating the company's new owner, particularly your handling of today's quality control demonstration." "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. "Our reputation." "Your reputation." I picked up a piece of Alex's discarded cake from the trash. "You mean the one you built by throwing away your grandson's work? By calling him talentless while he quietly mastered every recipe your father-in-law created?" Alex stepped forward, still clutching his recipe book. "Dad said the original store started in a home kitchen too, Grandma. Great-grandpa practiced for years before opening the first shop. Your father filled your head with sentimental nonsense," Diana snapped, though her voice lacked its usual authority. "Business is about image, about standards. About family," I cut in. "About passing down traditions and recipes with love, not throwing them in the trash because they don't match your social pretensions." The party guests watched in fascinated silence as Diana's carefully maintained facade continued to crack. "The annual Baker's Gala is next week," she said weakly. "All my friends, the food critics, will be very interested to meet the company's new owner," I finished, "and taste his interpretation of the classic recipes. Unless you prefer to explain why you've been hiding your grandson's talent, I'm sure the press would love that story." Tommy raised his hand. "Can Alex make his chocolate raspberry cake for the gala, the one you just threw away?" Other kids chimed in, several pulling out phones to show pictures of previous treats Alex had made for them. Diana watched in horror as evidence of her grandson's skill circulated among the guests. "Mom," Alex said quietly, "I want to change the company's training program. Make it open to anyone who loves baking, not just people from fancy culinary schools. Like your father wanted," I smiled. "Before certain people insisted on making it exclusive." Diana clutched her designer handbag like a shield. "This isn't over." Actually, I handed her one final document. "It is. Your personal account at all our locations has been suspended. I hear there's a lovely grocery store bakery down the street that might be more appropriate for your new position." The professional cake Diana had brought sat forgotten on the counter as Alex's friends gathered around him, asking about recipes and sharing stories of his previous baking successes. The grandson she had dismissed as an embarrassment was suddenly the center of attention for all the right reasons. "We should remake your cake," Tommy suggested. "Show everyone how it's supposed to look." "Actually," I smiled, opening the refrigerator, "Mom always makes a backup when Grandma visits." I pulled out an identical chocolate raspberry cake, perfectly frosted and decorated with fresh berries. Diana's face flushed as Alex's friends cheered. "You knew? You planned this?" "Like father, like son," I replied quietly. "James taught Alex more than just recipes. He taught him to always be prepared for people who care more about appearances than substance." Alex carefully placed 13 candles on his backup cake. "Dad said the secret ingredient isn't in the recipe book, Grandma. He said it's love." "Ridiculous sentiment," Diana muttered, but her voice cracked as she watched her grandson recreate the careful decorating technique James had perfected years ago. "The board meeting on Monday," I continued, "will include a tasting. Alex will present his versions of the classic recipes, including the ones you claimed he'd never master. You can't expect me to sit there while a child. While the honor, I corrected, demonstrates his expertise. Actually, your attendance is optional, like your position as brand ambassador. The color drained from Diana's face. That position, with its generous salary and social prestige, had been her pride and joy for decades. You wouldn't dare remove me. The social connections, the publicity, can easily be managed by someone who actually appreciates our company's heritage, I finished. Someone who doesn't throw award-winning cakes in the trash. Alex looked up from his cake decorating. Grandma can stay, Mom. But she has to start in the kitchen, like great-grandpa did. Dad said that's where you learn the real heart of baking. The simple dignity in my son's voice brought tears to my eyes. Even after everything, he showed more grace than his grandmother ever had. You heard the owner, I told Diana. Though I hear the dishes get pretty sticky during training. Better protect that designer manicure. Diana gathered her things, her world of culinary superiority crumbling like overworked pastry. This isn't over. Actually it is, I said, handing her one final gift. Her father-in-law's original apron, worn and stained from years of loving use. Monday morning, 5 a.m. That's when kitchen training starts. Don't be late. As she walked out on shaking legs, Alex turned to his friends. Who wants to learn how to make Dad's special frosting? He said sharing recipes makes them taste better. The kitchen filled with excited children, all eager to learn from the boy Diana had dismissed as talentless. On a counter, her elaborate professional cake sat untouched while kids devoured slices of Alex's homemade creation. Hey Mom, Alex called, up to his elbows in buttercream, can we use the main store's kitchen for my next birthday? I want to teach my friends great-grandpa's original recipes. Of course, sweetheart, I smiled. After all, some lessons are best learned in the kitchen, especially the ones about humility. And on Monday, when Diana arrived for her first day of basic training, she found her grandson not at the service entrance she had always insisted he use, but in the master baker's office, surrounded by the recipes his father had taught him to treasure. After all, the sweetest revenge isn't served cold, it's served fresh from the oven, made with love and just a pinch of justice.